Hello and welcome to episode 58 of our SAP on Azure Video Podcast. Today is September 9th, and together with Robert and Goran, we're here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Again.
Today we have Martin Pankraz back. After talking about integration, private link, automation, and lots of other topics, this time Martin will talk about Visual Studio Code, GitHub, and other developer-related topics, I would say. But as always, before we hand over to him, let's quickly take a look at some of the news from last week. And I actually want to start with a blog post by Murali. Murali has, we talked about him in the past, and now he has another really nice blog post from my point of view about the Launchpad service on the business technology platform. Why do you use it? So he has these 5 top reasons why you should use that. And actually, I also like the Launchpad service very much. It's a beautiful service to consolidate different, as he wrote here, to provide central access to SAP apps. And I would actually say not only SAP apps, also other applications. So for an employee who's really centered on using, for example, SAP applications, then this can be a beautiful entry point, but it can also be used obviously for other applications. And he talks about a few other things: authentication, extending the reach, Fiori experiences, and so it's a nice overview of why you might take a look and consider the business technology platform Launchpad service here.
On our end, Holger, we actually also exposing Power Apps, through that option, and we have some customers, also their blog post on it, how to get it done. It's very easy.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's not only for SAP, it's also for other applications, and especially with the Power Platform, this can be a beautiful addition to also embed these applications then in one central place. Another thing that I found was this website about Microsoft Datacenters. It's a nice overview of things that are part of our data centers, basically. So topics like global reach and local presences. So this whole go local topic, then innovation with the data centers, compliance and security, sustainability. So really giving a nice overview of what is actually part of the infrastructure. And as before, I think we talked about this. You can then also really take a look, for example, at the data center. You can have this virtual tour, go through, go really on site, more or less virtually, on such a data center here or one of our regions, and then really go in this data center, experience the look and feel. So I think that's a nice page that consolidates a lot of information around our data centers.
So we need to put on a scuba suit now, to see that submerged data center part,
Exactly, and I think we haven't talked about this for quite some time. I think when we surfaced this underwater data center, then there was a lot of publicity around this. Maybe we need to take a closer look at this project Nautic. I think so. Maybe that's definitely something where we should take another look at. Moving on. Actually, and this goes actually in this direction that you just mentioned, Martin. So I have published another video that talks a little about these integration scenarios, and exactly like what we just said. So the Fiori Launchpad is the central entry point, and then from there you obviously access other Fiori applications, but you also access Power Platform applications, Office scenarios, and so on. So if you're interested in some of these integrations, then take a look. It became longer and longer, so it's now 17 minutes. But I hope these demos give you some ideas and some thoughts of how the integration of SAP and some of Microsoft technologies can look like. Then let me switch to Christian Lechner. Christian Lechner has released another very extensive blog post. So it's yeah, you can see here it's a lot of details here. As always, he describes in a lot of detailed steps of what needs to be done. And this time it's about SAP Event Mesh. So this eventing component on the SAP technology platform that can be used to receive events from an S4 system, from SuccessFactors and so on, then obviously send these events further to other subscribers. And in this blog post, he talks about how this can be used in combination with Azure Functions. So I have to admit, I have not tested it yet, but just reading through it, this looks like a very interesting concept of combining event-driven architectures with Azure Functions.
I believe the value add is it's not just using a webhook and doing a plain HTTP call, but really bundling the communication here to make it specific for the service. So you're abstracting away some of the communication specifics for the developer. So if binding is usually something that's very it's tightly integrated then. No?
Cool, yeah. So definitely check it out. And I'm actually talking about Christian Lechner. So Christian, I hope most of you know this, is also having a podcast, his myNewsWrap, where every week or almost every week he talks about links and content that he's found online in the area of, as he says, SAP and Microsoft and everything in between. It's really worth listening. So he has now 50 episodes, and I know, I mean, we only also passed 50 episodes recently, so I know this is how it feels to cross this milestone. Definitely check it out. It's not only on YouTube. He also has this. I don't know. No, the links are not here, but actually he has a very extensive GitHub repository as well, where he always outlines all the links that he has. But what I wanted to highlight is that it's also available on Spotify and some other, I don't see the link here, but it's available as a podcast also on your via audio. So definitely check this out. Let me actually just open one of these links just to show you the details here. So I was just picking anything. Here you can see the podcast link, and then he really outlines all the links here to different content. He's very much focused on Azure Functions. That's also nice. So that's definitely his or one of his areas of expertise. So it's a really very important source of information, and all beautifully consolidated. So I think it's definitely worth to subscribe and listen to the podcast from Christian Lechner.
I'm really interested to see how it changes since he joined SAP a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, but he made it also very transparent. I think that's also good. So he clearly says, and I think even in his role as an SAP employee, I think he already also touched some sensitive areas, I would say, which I thought was also very interesting. So I think it's definitely worth to subscribe and to listen here. Good. Then one more thing that was just published 20 hours ago or something like that. So our colleagues Konstantin Popov and Evren, now I'm butchering his name here, Burek again. He was already on our show talking about security, and now they have created a white paper for DNS integration, especially in the context of SAP on Azure. I have not read it yet, but knowing Evren, I think this is, again, a very detailed, very extensive white paper piece of information that you definitely can read through if you need to work with DNS in the area of SAP on Azure. And I think we all know, or all customers are going through this. So I think it's definitely worth to take a look at that and use this learnings also in your project here. Okay, then one last thing. SAP TechEd is coming up, and it's really nice to see. So if you watched TechEd last year, I think one of the highlights was the developer keynote, and up until the developer keynote, there was also a Devtoberfest, and now SAP is basically repeating the Devtoberfest. So they have several weeks of content where they talk about things, where they explain how things are done, and then there are also challenges and questions that you can answer. And this time they have actually gamified this a little more. So they have some small prizes. There's some there's a nice application where you can see your ranking basically, which was fairly nice. And they also have some fun activities. So after every week there's some some fun activities. I know there's a game night that I saw somewhere, and some other things. So I think it's nice to see how the developer community there around Thomas Young, DJ Marius, and the team, how they're really engaging with the community. And I think this Devtoberfest is probably also really something that will be a lot of fun and lead then into SAP TechEd.
Do you see that, Holger? There's a button, open in Visual Studio Code. No? That's maybe a good thing we need to remember for today.
That's a beautiful segue into your part. Yes. So let me actually stop sharing, and then Martin, I guess most of our listeners or viewers know you already, but maybe still you can quickly introduce yourself, and then I know you have some beautiful, very exciting demos already planned. So let's hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Robert and Holger. I have more than 2 years of Microsoft under my belt now, but I came from a developer background, C++ back in the day. So that's why developer experience always remained a little close to my heart. And during prototyping,
perfect,
What do you say, Robert?
Nobody's perfect if you consider C++, so don't worry. There's a worse stuff on.
True, yeah. And I'm part of Holger's team, group of program managers who work closely with SAP and our joint product portfolio. And that's why I get also access to very interesting previews where we can prototype new things and juggle ideas and actually give back to the community and try new things and drive forward what SAP and Microsoft is today and can be. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So, and speaking of developer experience, let me start sharing my screen. So this is where most ABAP developers started back in the day, and some of them are still here, which is the famous SAP backend transaction code SE80. Yeah.
I think in the meantime, to be fair, there's obviously ABAP in Eclipse as well. So I think SAP is very much trying to get the developers over to this Eclipse-based environment. But you're right. I mean, I think SE80 is still, everyone knows SE80, I would say.
Not in Eclipse, in SAP Development Studio.
I'm sorry.
You must be politically correct.
Okay. Yeah, but the foundation is the Eclipse ecosystem. Yeah. Very true. And but some features and some functions and some configurations remained in the sub GUI. Yeah. So I believe that's why sometimes out of like just being here, you do also ABAP changes, yeah, in SE80. Even though for some of the features, the Eclipse base is better suited. Yeah. So but as a developer, I have like certain needs, yeah, and most of them, or very often, I try to become more productive. Yeah, how can I achieve the same goal with less effort? Yeah, so I can spend more time on creativity or like the actual logic that I need to create. Yeah? And in here, I'm limited to what the sub GUI offers, and there's no way for me to extend this. Yeah? And the very basic thing that was the major pain point back in the day was missing code control, version control systems. Yeah? At that time, SVN was very popular, and Git emerged as well. And that pressure even became so high that there is now an abapGit extension for a couple of years now, I think. Yeah? So you can even use Git now with SE80, yeah, if you want to.
One question regarding this Git integration. Before was open source private version. Is this now official SAP GitHub connector or whatever?
No, Git as a like version control system has always been open. Yeah.
No. There's this add-on what you need to install on the system to be able to use that. Is this still somehow now SAP development or not yet?
To my knowledge, not. It's
no. There are two things.
Yeah, exactly.
abapGit is still open source. Still is, and it's not controlled or maintained by SAP.
Okay.
It's still there. It's hugely popular, obviously, but it is community driven. SAP also has something called gCTS, GitCTS, which is the official Git integration for SAP. But gCTS, that's for me the biggest hurdle at the moment for some customers is that it's only available for S4. So if you have older, if you have your NetWeaver 7 whatever system, then gCTS is not supported in this. And obviously that's the beautiful thing of abapGit. With abapGit, you go in SE80. I mean, even installing abapGit is super easy. But you don't get support with gCTS. Yeah, exactly. You need to be on S4HANA 1909. And then I have worked with a few customers that are using gCTS, that are testing it in the context of S4. But it's available in S4, not in older releases.
Yeah. But next, that was one of the things that I think sparked the move into other clients outside of SE80. But there's obviously more. Yeah, developers have their own style, their own needs, what kind of generators they want, different extensions and visualizations, converters. There's like the list is very long. Yeah, and your IDE needs to keep up with that. Yeah, so that the developers can adjust this to their needs. And one of the very exciting new extensions to this IDE ecosystem, especially in Visual Studio Code, is the GitHub CoPilot, which is in technical preview, yeah, meaning it's closed. Yeah, there's only a couple of developers selected worldwide who got access to it, and we're actually going to see some nice demos today because I'm one of the lucky ones who actually got into the closed technical preview here.
And that's really fantastic. I mean, that really is great that you were selected. I mean, I'm still waiting. I also subscribed, but it's fantastic to see that you got already access.
And I want to start with like a funny example now, because the way Copilot works, it needs to be able to understand programming language. Yeah, and one of the participators of the technical preview, he thought, okay, if he understands programming language, what about human language then? And started creating some examples. And we are going to do the same right now. Yeah, so we're seeing here me, Martin, asking the Copilot how he is. Yeah. And Copilot automatically suggests to me this is his answer. Yeah. So you could see that the suggestion as if it's answering now. Yeah.
Cool. So you could ask Copilot a few other questions.
Yeah. Any suggestions? How about this one?
Ah, that's perfect. Now, obviously, we also have to ask Copilot whether it likes Microsoft.
You're playing with fire.
We'll cut this out.
We're lucky, huh?
We could ask it about our podcast. Does it know about our podcast? Otherwise, we need to promote it a little more. The SAP. What do you think about the SAP and Microsoft products? Ooh, YouTube channel or YouTube podcast. Yeah. I think they are great. Ah, perfect. We're done. Let's close the call for today. Cool. So, and this is all powered by CoPilot. While you type, CoPilot works with the data that you're entering, and then it looks up the database basically, or the information that it has, and then it tries to find a good solution or a good answer to the question in this specific case.
Yes. Once I hit enter, it takes what I did before in this file to anticipate my coding style, and also checks its database for suggestion. Yeah.
Cool.
And this is quite interesting because we are now using human language, and it still comes up with ideas. Yeah.
Really great. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's apply the concept to ABAP. And how would we do that? We now need an IDE which is able to work with ABAP code. Yeah. So we already mentioned SE80, yeah, but obviously SE80 cannot use CoPilot, and Eclipse also not. Yeah, this extension is available only for Visual Studio Code. So we need to make it work in here. But we are lucky because the community, which is quite large as well, already developed extensions, yeah, for Visual Studio Code. So when you type here ABAP, you see quite a large list already of things you can add to your IDE to actually start using work with ABAP. Lars Vam here is also very vocal in the community, and
I think he's also the one who actually started with the whole abapGit integration. So to make ABAP a Git client and be able to connect to a Git repository with his whole ABAP lint. I think he's super active in this area. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly. And but we are going to use this one, which is the ABAP remote file system, developed by Marcello. I had some engagements with him. Quite a nice guy. And this will actually enable us to pull the ABAP code from my attached system. So I already pulled up the data. You see here my SID, FS1. Yeah, that's my demo system. And this runs on Azure. And it's actually protected, so it's a private VNet. I only can get there through my point-to-site VPN. Yeah. So, but I pre-configured that already. Yeah. So I'm here on my Azure VNet connected. That's why it pulls the files here.
So Martin, just to quickly clarify again, since we talked about abapGit and gCTS, this does not play. So theoretically, I could use abapGit to store my ABAP coding from my SE80 in GitHub, and then potentially, obviously, I could also connect Visual Studio Code to GitHub. But the beautiful thing that you're doing here is you really are connecting live to your SAP system, surfacing basically the source code from the SAP system now in Visual Studio Code.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is the live version that's activated on my SAP backend. And if I go now here to this to the code, I could actually make a change. And CoPilot is now suggesting to me this, but I don't want that. And if I hit now save, this is suggesting me to activate this, yeah, activating the current object, and I'm missing a dot. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I'm activating this now. Okay, because it's not an ABAP object. Could do the same with a program, just to be sure when we go back. So why is that test here?
But it's nice. So even while you're typing already, we can see that CoPilot is trying to add a few things.
Yeah, let's try to activate from here. So the activate went through. We can check both now. So if we go back to SE80 and look at my programs, Z-test, there you go. Yeah, so
update from Visual Studio Code now in your SAP system. And it's even activated already. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I debug it from code on Visual Studio Code?
Now, Robert, now you get me thinking here. Huh? So this is a REST enabled class. So the class is registered on SICF as an endpoint. So I can call this from Postman, yeah. So to test. So let me put a breakpoint here, and let me run the debugger. So now the debugging process is running on Visual Studio Code. I have a breakpoint. Unverified. Okay, didn't like that because it's on the declaration. I need to have it on a line of code. So let me get my Postman. So this is, you could do this from any REST client, but for all of my projects I use Postman, yeah. Okay, come on. There we go. So I hooked my REST endpoint through Azure API Management, but I could also call it directly, yeah, if I wanted to. We can change that here if you to make it to even clearer. 7.
So that's the IP address of your SAP system connected via VPN from your laptop.
Just to be sure, yeah. So that's on SAP BC. There it is. Oh, go back up. It's a REST example, yeah. So if I could even click test from here, and then we would get the path, yeah. 44321. So different. And then I could actually send this now. I have here my basic authentication. It's a GET request, hitting send. So you now see this is taking also very long. And now we see Visual Studio Code blinking already, telling me, and there we call the breakpoint. Yeah. And you see even variables here, yeah? So local variables, how they're initialized, all the things you would expect from the debugger now. There's the call stack, yeah? If you have multiple breakpoints, you can step over, step through.
Really cool, yeah.
So if I hit continue here now, we'll get the answer from my REST service, and it was actually only giving me a JSON payload, telling me what operation I used and if it was successful or not.
Yeah, really nice, really impressive. So you don't even need the SAP GUI there anymore.
Not for that, for this purpose, yeah.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, I just want to. This is not official, right? I mean, there's no official support. It works, but you wouldn't be allowed to create a ticket at SAP for this, obviously.
Exactly. This is community driven, yeah. So the extensions that we just looked at here, this one is from Marcello, yeah, Marcello Ovani. Those are just very like passionate developers, yeah, who like to push the boundaries and also for their own productivity, yeah, because they obviously use this in their daily lives, yeah. Yeah.
No, that's really powerful.
And Robert, you said you wanted to debug, yeah? What about unit tests? Do you like them?
Okay, good.
There's another extension which is called here it's called testing. Yeah. And that one is able to execute your ABAP unit tests. Actually, I think in all my consulting days, I never came along any ABAP unit tests, but in software architecture, obviously, it plays an important role. Yeah, even though some SAP developments are not treated the same sometimes. Yeah, because there's just a couple of lines of code and you're done. Yeah. But for larger projects, yeah, it becomes crucial that you can have an automated way of repeating the same tests, that any change doesn't impact other parts of the software. Yeah? And even that can be executed from here, the ABAP unit tests. And so the next thing I want to show, from here. Another blog post by Lars, the one that we saw for the ABAP Blimp extension. He describes how you can edit your ABAP code from GitHub directly. So if we do the same thing from here, this is another of my projects. There's an ABAP class that I put there, and you could imagine now that you want to add a comment maybe, or make a quick change. That doesn't involve having a system running. With the latest feature update of GitHub, you can now hit just the dot on your keyboard. So you see me now hitting my dot on the keyboard. This is now bringing up Visual Studio Code on the web. And this is now my ABAP file with syntax highlighting based on Lars's extension here. So I can now actually do live updates here.
But still now you are not connected to your system. So you're just connected to GitHub and you are actually editing the text, so to say. Yes. So you cannot send and say run or activate.
Exactly. That's what Lars describes in this post. Editing ABAP directly on GitHub, but only editing the code. You still need to run it then. But if you think about DevOps processes, for instance, committing a change in this ABAP code could trigger a workflow that runs your unit tests and on in the background.
Or again, looking at gCTS or abapGit, the abapGit client. I mean, let's say you have really connected this already, so that any development that you do on your SAP system is stored in GitHub, and then obviously with this you can easily do modifications there. You can save it, as you said, Martin. This can trigger some additional jobs, and then these changes could also be made available back in the SAP system when the abapGit client runs again and fetches the latest information from GitHub.
Exactly.
So no, that's really cool.
There's another post, I think by Marcello, and we saw the unit testing pane on my live client, but he also has a nice blog on with some GIFs here how this would actually behave and how you would set it up. So this is really nice. It shows how powerful the community is.
Cool.
And the last one, this is Jürgen. He actually gives you guidance on how to be able to develop ABAP code without a server, but still being able to run the code.
Okay. Oh.
So there's also an extension that the syntax highlighting and the actual execution environment. So imagine you're traveling from Waldorf to Munich and you're running over those long lines through the woods where you don't have any connectivity. You could still develop a unit test. You could still run a small function that doesn't rely on any tables or so, where you need actual live connection, and still be productive and develop ABAP code offline.
Okay.
That's really powerful, and I think what strikes me most is this is all community driven. I mean, obviously SAP is also investing a lot, as what we see in gCTS. But if you look at the integration with Studio Code, the ABAP lint, all the syntax, and now this the Node.js integration here, I mean, that's just mind blowing.
And speaking of community, we have another one, Dr. Kerem Kozioglu, I think, And he made a video also on CoPilot, completing his code for us for a database read, I think. Yeah. So let me put this on mute. Yeah, where he's typing like I did before, yeah, in our chat, and he's now making a comment and saying, "CoPilot, please check if the material is in my database." And you see the suggestion. Yeah. So he got actually the code to check the material. Yeah, suggested by CoPilot.
That's really, really interesting, because I think Marius Obert, he had from SAP, he had already tried CoPilot in with SAP Fiori with UI5 specific scenarios, and I think that's where he already said, okay, in some areas it's working pretty well, in others there's still room for improvement, mainly probably because the underlying data sources are not good enough, or there's not enough content there to train really the models. But in ABAP, I guess it's even less. So it's impressive to see what's already possible. And I mean, it's just, let's think if there would be even more ABAP source code available to train the models, how good this CoPilot suggestion could then become at some point in time.
Exactly, yeah. So if we have a look at it ourselves, the examples that the CoPilot started with were on the bigger or high programming languages like JavaScript or like Python or so, yeah. And they rely on the public GitHub repos out there, yeah. And we have just a higher ratio of public GitHub repos for these programming languages, yeah. And one of the famous examples that we see, just start putting a comment like our doctor just did before for ABAP, and say, please calculate difference. Times already suggests that to me, yeah.
Between two dates, okay.
And then you type enter and say function.
Nothing happens.
Not yet. Okay, but I have it active. Let's try again.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Date 1, date 2. Okay, that already at least gives you the structure. Okay.
I think before probably did it differently, but let's try one more time. Because my last try, I actually got the whole body completely.
Oh, there was.
Yes. Okay, some delay on my network then. So this is something it suggests, yeah, for solving this task. And now I can actually browse the possible options. Yeah, so there's like a short hotkey for it. And now I'm typing, give me the next one. And it would actually tell me that. So there you can also do it from the UI. Next one. And then you can browse like 10 options of the things that others did for this. Yeah. And then you can say accept or have CoPilot show it you in a different pane. Yeah, how to use this. And this like speeds you up a lot. Yeah. So I've been using this the past months, and in any programming or prototyping endeavor that we did. Yeah. And sometimes it even gives you a laugh. Yeah, because we programmed a authentication logic with Azure AD, also for an SAP topic, and we did the authentication piece, but at some point you also need to check if your token expired. Yeah, but we went into the code and just said, okay, we started typing the comment again, and CoPilot actually suggested to us to put there to do. Add expiry logic, yeah. So we were thinking in our heads, okay, we are going to do this at a later stage, and CoPilot already put the thing that we had in our minds before, yeah. Probably many developers.
Cool.
Yeah, or this one even add exception handling, yeah. Also a thing, you code logic, but you do exceptions afterwards, yeah.
That's really great, yeah.
Yeah.
And just to highlight, so in this specific scenario, or just to CoPilot knew that it was JavaScript because the file obviously is already called JavaScript. Obviously, if this would be a C# file or something like that, CoPilot would try to enhance or guess predict the coding for C# or something like that.
Exactly.
Really nice.
So,
cool.
And the very last thing from the community, we had a colleague from Korea who coded an extension for Visual Studio Code that allows him to parse voice. So he's speaking into his microphone. The extension picks up his voice and is then writing code and triggering CoPilot. So, and probably I didn't click share with audio, but we can see the outprints from
subtitles.
Yeah, the subtitles.
So now he's saying, I guess something. Yeah, a function that determines if a specific year is a leap year.
So he puts the comment there in Korean, and now CoPilot suggests the code. Yeah.
Yeah, this is hands-free development.
God, please save us. That part.
So he's making the same examples that I did before, but with voice commands. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Print the minimum.
Yeah, I like that Martin part where you mentioned that he suggests you something which is, obvious in your code structure. This is a nice feature. I like that because it can help you to finalize or have a error handling. It's like it's like how we call that in SAP, or how we call it in you have these static checks and coding. Yeah. So but you need to go to nightly build to be sure you have all those exception try catch blocks properly done. There's no empty catch blocks. But I think now CoPilot can do that for you and tell you, hey, don't do that. It's not allowed, or it's not a good idea.
No, actually, CoPilot doesn't do that. It suggests to you what others did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on the way you code it and what you're trying to achieve, it suggests you what it saw in other projects used a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the funny thing, yeah, because you're putting to do, add exception handling later, or check expiry logic later.
Mm.
So obviously many developers did that, yeah, at the first time, yeah. But nevertheless, what you get is like the AI-driven pair programming. So you don't need to check a lot of Stack Overflow threads because it already tells you likely how the function you need to code or the object you're trying to access, how to do that, yeah. And in many cases, when you see the suggestion, you already know it's correct, yeah. But you couldn't make it up yourself. You need to browse certain websites and find out what it is, yeah. And this really sped us up in many cases. And sometimes the suggestions pointed us to things we didn't even think about, yeah. Like, oh, okay, that's good. So there was probably a good developer doing this before, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you still need to have an understanding of what JavaScript or what ABAP looks like and stuff like that. But probably if you have some pointers, some ideas of how in which direction you want to go, then instead of Googling the code snippets and copy and pasting it together, CoPilot already helps you in this and provides you with some structure, and then you probably need to fine tune it maybe in some areas, but it simplifies the way you can stay in Visual Studio Code in this specific environment and do your development. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and also context. Yeah, one example. I was coding an API management policy yesterday, and I was starting to put variable names and function names and reusing them with placeholders later on. I did this for the first two. The third one, CoPilot already knew that I'm going to reuse the variable name I had before, put the function and the placeholder. Like, oh my God, now I can just put enter, enter, enter and be done with it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So there's many things that actually excites you through the programming day. Yeah.
Cool. Great, Martin. Thank you very much. I think that was a very extensive overview of how the future could look like. I mean, again, this is currently all community driven. I mean, CoPilot is obviously from GitHub. It's not yet in public preview. I'm still waiting, but all the extensions Visual Studio Code are there. You can immediately try them. So I think it's really nice, and it again gives the developer choice. I mean, there's still developers who love SE80, and that's perfectly fine. There are developers who love ABAP and Eclipse, also okay. But now we can offer them also Visual Studio Code to do even ABAP development. So I think that's really exciting.
Okay.
Exactly.
Good.
No worries, Robert. The robots are not here to take over.
Not yet.
Don't worry, we are the robots. Yeah?
We are the robots. Okay, you are the robot. Okay, good. With this, thank you very much. Thanks for all the demos, and I'm really excited to see you again with probably something completely different. So thanks, Martin, and see you soon.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.